John here. So in this one, I'm going to show you a really good exercise for developing your pinky and also your overall alternate picking synchronization. And on top of that, we're also going to go through all the 7 shapes plus 3 more that we can fit over here in the key of A minor. We're going to keep it simple again, but if you're working on some other tonality right now, I suggest that you learn the pattern and then apply it to that instead. So the tonality isn't really important. I just keep it to a basic key so it's easier for you to understand the pattern. So I'm going to play through this whole thing and give you some advice during the way. And as always, you have the tabs available on my Patreon, and that's linked in the description below. So I'm going to do this at 80 BPMs and 1/8 notes. And the actual pattern itself is based on this. So it's kind of a pedal note pattern, and here's where it's so good for your pinky because you use your pinky a lot here. So and then we'll go do the same thing with the next string. Next, 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 and then we restart it here. So they're a bit different. So you start with the sequence on 1 string, then play the first note here, and then you do that, and then you restart on the next string. So if I put both together. And here, when I went from in this particular shape, if I go from here, I could have done that as well, and I'm probably going to stick to that so I really get a good workout for the 3rd and 4th finger, but you could also do that because that probably would be a bit more practical depending on where you're going next. But since we're going down here, I'm going to use 3 and 4 when I actually do it. But that's the shape or the actual sequence. So it's fairly easy to do. And at 80 BPMs, it will take you 30 seconds to play through up and down. And then we're going to do that again, starting with an upstroke instead. So it's quite a complete picking workout. So if you want to play along, do that, or just learn the shape and then, try it yourself. But even still, I'm going to play through the whole thing because, again, this is my warm-up today. And I'm also going to give you some advice on what I'm thinking about as I'm doing this. All right, so shape number 1, here we go. We'll do that one again, but start with an upstroke. Definitely a different feel. Alright, next shape, starting with a downstroke. I'm trying to just focus on the timing here, and as I've said before, even though it's just 1/8 notes at 80, to really lock it in is more difficult than you might think. So that's also a matter of focus here. So. Do that one again, starting with an upstroke. Next shape, starting with a downstroke. Starting with an upstroke. So one thing here, I got some string noise up here, but generally if a string starts ringing a little bit, that's more of a muting issue, right? And that happens sometimes, especially when you play through these, I use a neural DSP and it's quite sensitive to all that stuff, so you have to really be on point, which is fine, that's just good for my technique. But I generally don't feel that's nearly as bad as if you get any type of flams that you're sort of out of time between the hands. So because the muting thing is something you can basically fix very easily. It's just, you know, changing your finger a little bit at that point. So that's less of an issue, and like I said, much easier to fix. Whereas if you start developing these flams between your two hands, that's a much bigger issue. So if I get some, you know, extra string noise, I don't mind it that much, but I really do mind it if I would get any sort of flams between my hands. So it might be something to keep in mind. All right, next position, starting with a downstroke. Just try and be relaxed and use the quick transitions between the notes. Starting with an upstroke. Next position, starting with a downstroke. Starting with an upstroke. Alright, so we get the next position, starting with a downstroke. Starting with an upstroke. The reason why I play through all of this stuff sort of in front of you is just so you can get an idea of what it sounds like when I practice and how I do it. Because I talk a lot about practicing slowly, and I think some of you don't really believe that's actually what I'm doing, because I play a lot of fast stuff as well. But in my opinion, the only reason why I can do the fast stuff is because most of my practice time is spent focusing on relaxed and very accurate playing, especially when it comes to anything repetitive. So I just want to show you exactly what I do. And I think I mentioned this in an earlier video. I would have killed to have similar footage of Yngwie or Paul Gilbert or whoever, and I'm not putting myself in that legendary category at all, but I would have been really happy just being able to see anyone that has a good technique and see how they actually practiced. And also, I'm not saying that my way of practicing is the only way, but at least I can show you how I do it. So when you sit down and do it yourself, you have an idea of one approach that works, at least. So that's the whole reason why I actually do this in front of you. And another reason is that I'm gonna do this anyway, so I might as well film it and talk you through it. So hopefully some of you can get some benefit out of it. So with that said, let's go to the next position. We're almost done here. So downstroke. Upstroke. Alright, so now we've done all 7 shapes. Now they start repeating here, but I'm gonna keep going because there's a very different feel up here compared to down here. So I highly suggest you to do that as well. And I think I mentioned this is a 10-minute warm-up, since we have 30 seconds times 2, starting with a downstroke and an upstroke, and we have 10 positions, but we actually have 11, because this one, since we're staying in one position, if you have 24 frets, you can actually get this one as well. But you'll see what I mean when I get there. So, starting with a downstroke here on the 13th fret. Starting with an upstroke. And the next one, downstroke. Starting with an upstroke. We have 2 more shapes, we're almost done. And even when I'm up here, I still do the pinky. I don't change to the 3rd finger here. So that's what I do, and I suggest you to try that yourself for practice. And you know, when you do this in an actual solo or playing up here, if you want to use the 3rd finger instead, just go for it. But I think it's a good idea to work on the harder things as you practice, and that will gradually seep into your normal playing. So let's start here, downstroke. Upstroke. Alright, so the last position, and this is going to be quite tight for me because I have big hands, but it's a really good cutaway on this guitar, so that's not the issue. It's just that it's very small frets, right? But I think it's, even though it's hard to play these positions, it's better to work on them in practice as well. So when you come across some solo that you need to do up here, then you're going to be really happy that you actually didn't skip this during your practice. So that's why it's better to sort of push through and just do it, basically. All right, so let's try it. Downstroke. All right, that worked fairly well. Let's do the last one now, starting on upstroke. Alright, so that's all the positions, and we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different positions, and each position take pretty much exactly 1 minute at this tempo when you start with a downstroke and start with an upstroke. So around, 11 to 12 minutes to do the whole routine, but I feel really warmed up now. So it's a really well spent time, I think. And as you can hear, I'm just focusing on accuracy, and if I get some noise from adjacent strings or whatever, as long as it's not happening consistently, if it's just here and there, I don't mind it too much because, as I mentioned earlier, it's quite an easy fix. But I really do mind if I get any type of flams. So that's something I really think everyone who's into any kind of good picking should avoid like the plague. So try this out yourself, and again, you have the tabs on my Patreon. So I've actually written out the whole thing. So you can play along with that if you want, and I did it in the key that I did it here. And if you really want to upgrade your alternate picking for 2024, you should check out this book.